Let's jump out to the D&M Leasing Hotline. Welcome to the program. Don't panic. Call Matt Tympanick. Yes, that's right. Legal expert when it comes to all things sports, as well as a NFL agent. And we're going to talk a little NIL with him. But I'll tell you what, I've been talking to my boy Matt since the Trevor Bauer days, back when he had his whole fiasco going. And my guy Matt was on it well before anybody else was, when he was talking about just the whole thing with the DA, as well as he said, when you look at the situation behind the scenes and what's going on with this case, don't be surprised if this thing gets tossed out. And that's exactly what happened when everybody else was saying Trevor Bauer was done. Well, I mean, he was baseball-wise, but, again, legally he was okay. Matt, number one, first of all, congratulations on so many different things since the last time you and I chit-chatted. You're now an NFL agent. Number two, you're now a dad, because you were not a dad the last time you and I chit-chatted.
Thank you so much, Fred. It's a pleasure to be on with you tonight. Yes, my daughter is 11 months old. We are actually planning our first birthday right now as we speak. About 10 minutes ago, my wife and I were looking at gifts that we can give her for this year. So thank you so much. It's truly a blessing to be a dad.
100% it is. And I'll tell you what, right now this is your first time going into the NFL draft where now you're representing two people, correct?
Yes. So I am actually representing now three people.
Okay.
So I have, an edge rusher by the name of Nicholas Lennon out of Merrimack College, whose uncle Paris Lennon actually played 12 years in the NFL.
Okay.
I got a running back kick returner, Jermaine Corbett, who actually the Dallas Cowboys have expressed interest in either drafting him or signing him as an undrafted free agent. And then I have a wide receiver out of Dartmouth College, Isaac Boston. I call him the Flash. He actually ran a 4.44 last week, 40 in his pre-test.
Okay.
He came, so we're expecting something in the 4.3s come his pro day. So, I'm shepherding those guys into the NFL draft. So I'm very excited about them.
When shepherding these guys into the NFL draft, what's the biggest thing you've learned kind of in this agent process? Maybe something that you weren't expecting to learn, kind of how the NFL works, how these agents work, how these front offices work. What have you learned the most from being so close with these NFL teams and these players?
What the biggest thing is as an agent, you are both a legal advisor for the player, but you're also a scout, because you need to be able to figure out how to market these guys to teams. It's like, you may think this guy is the greatest player ever, or you think he's like a first, second round, third round pick, but that doesn't matter. You need to convince the teams that they are what you say they are. You got to convince them to give them a look. It's like, if you're not watching film of them and finding out their strengths and weaknesses, you don't know how to market them to teams. I was able, with Jermaine Corbett, who the Cowboys are interested in, it's like, they need help at times in the return game. They got Torben, who's one of the best in the league, but they still need that running back depth, like all teams do. As I couldn't even tell you who they were playing at running back late in the season. I felt like Ezekiel Elliott was on the team, which I thought it was like 2016 again. So for me, it's always about finding your players and finding them the best way they can fit onto NFL rosters and where they fit in, and convincing teams like, this is what I see. Are you seeing the same thing? Do you agree with that? And that same player has had the Lions interested. I've spoken to the Panthers, the Commanders, the Patriots, the Dolphins. The list goes on and on and on. It's all about finding out, and when I'm explaining to my clients, what is the best fit? Like, you get drafted, you get drafted. That's where you play. That's how it works. But if you go undrafted, then it's like, now we get to pick and choose where the best place to play. So I think the best way to answer your question is you need to be both head scout and advisor at the same time. So I was always like, because I have that legal background, I've been an attorney for 8 years now, but I was never really had that scouting background. So I've been kind of learning things on the fly. I've obviously been obsessed with football my whole life, but seeing the small things what guys can do on the field makes a huge difference, convincing teams to be able to make them a part of their football team.
And excuse me being naive, and this is maybe just even a selfish question, just wanting to learn more about it, but kind of you can be, answer this how you want, but kind of who are you speaking to when you're having these conversations? Are you reaching out to teams? Are teams reaching out to you? Are you talking to GMs? Are you talking to scouting personnel? Just kind of how does that process all work of marketing your players?
So it definitely works both ways. I'll give you an example. The New England Patriots reached out to Nicholas, my edge rusher. They obviously need help big time in pass rushing.
Mm-hmm.
They have Christian Barrymore, but after Judon, they weren't really able to do as much. Keon White has been really good. But at the same time, I'm also reaching out to teams. I'm reaching out to the Panthers, who have previously expressed interest in Jermaine, and being like, hey, are you guys still interested?
Yeah.
Let me send this film I have of him. Here's when his pro day is. Am I going to see you guys there? I'd love to talk to you further. So it does work both ways. I've had teams be like, hey, like the Detroit Lions reached out to one of my guys and was like, hey, we want to interview him and just talk to him, get to know some more information. Other times I set it up myself. So it's all a bunch of everything's moving parts. Like sometimes you're reaching out, sometimes they are. But you want to cultivate that relationship and keep it because, remember, only so many guys get drafted every year. I think this year is one of the less years. I want to say something like 257 players. And think about it, 300-plus players are invited to the Combine. So if every person invited to the Combine is drafted, that means 50 guys who still were invited are going to go undrafted. It's a numbers game. So you have to convince teams that's like, your guy is worthy of their draft pick. Because a lot of these, when you get into later rounds, this is where the scouts come into play. The first 3 rounds, I would probably say that everybody is very similar draft grades.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the GM, the assistant GM are the ones making those picks. But when you get to day 3, everybody's evaluations are all over the place. So the low-level scouts, the area scouts, the national scouts, they're the ones that the GM is listening to when making those picks because they're the ones who did the legwork, who were driving to towns you've never heard of, watching teams you didn't even know existed. So making those connections is instrumental in being able to get your guy maybe a shot as a priority free agent. Or, perfect example, Malcolm Butler, when he was with the Patriots, he was invited just to rookie minicamp. He was working at Popeyes when he got the call to get an invitation to the Patriots, and we all know that ended with him catching the interception of Russell Wilson in Super Bowl 49.
Matt Tympanick, sports legal expert, NFL agent, joining us, talking all things NFL draft. We'll get to some more legal stuff here. But I'm fascinated because the other thing, too, though, is that, you got 3 guys who are all small college guys, right? Merrimack, Dartmouth, that sort of thing. So how much more of that are you just combating when they're talking about, well, let's look at the level of competition and maybe the video isn't as good as, say, if you're an SEC or, Big 12 or something like that. How much of that are you combating as well when it comes to just the level of competition when you've got some of these smaller school guys?
Absolutely. So one of the things is my guys are very talented and they showed up on the national stage. Jermaine was actually first-team All-American as a kick returner in FCS. So he was the top in FCS. So remember, there's FBS where like Alabama and Michigan play, and then there's FCS. He was the first-team All-American kick returner. So with one of the highest return averages in the entire country in 2 return kicks. So it's like, all right, that's what he's doing. His statistics speak for itself. And my other guy, Nicholas Lennon, was top 5 in the country in sacks in FCS, more than David Walker, which is going to be a name you're going to know, a guy out of Central Arkansas, who is an unbelievable edge rusher, signed with a big agency, but you're going to know his name in a few years. Mark my words. And he had more sacks than him. So it's definitely shown. It's like the statistics speak for themselves. And you watch the tape, it's like these guys can play against anyone. The fact that they're playing against Harvard, Colgate, these guys, remember, Brian Fitzpatrick went to Harvard. And it's like all about these scouts are looking for players that other teams overlooked. And when you show them, it's like, take a look at this. His film speaks for itself. His stats speak for itself. Look at the competition. He's not playing against scrubs. They're playing against really good competition. So give him a chance, bring him to camp, show what he can do against NFL players, and then make your evaluation.
All right, real quick before we get into the legal side of things. So as a first-time agent, what did you know as far as, and I know you talked a little bit about, kind of, getting the relationships and learning the scouting side of things, but from a legal and just representation standpoint of things, what did you know going into it, and what is kind of like the day-to-day for the next, we got 75, 80 days, whatever it's left before the draft hits, and like you said, you got the undrafted free agent part if your guys, end up going to that route. But what is Matt Tympanick doing for these three guys over the next 75, 80 days?
So the biggest thing is getting them exposure. Remember, these guys, like you said, excuse me, they played in small schools, so they were on ESPN+, they had scouts at their games, but they're not getting that national exposure because it's not on CBS on a Saturday afternoon, 3:30 playing Florida. It's not on ABC Saturday night game of the week. So you've got to literally get those players' film in front of teams that may have not seen it. Remember, a lot of teams, when the offseason begins, a lot of playoff teams are already behind the ball. So Bill Belichick used to say, it's like, if you went to the Super Bowl, that's great, but you're already 3 to 4 weeks behind already on the season. So you got to get these teams that were made to the playoffs, and some of which did really good or kind of flamed out, to be like, all right, you guys, I understand that it was a tough season, and it didn't, with the exception of the Eagles, it all did not end the way you wanted to. But you got to start thinking of next season and taking a look at this, guys. Like, you got 3 seventh-round picks. It's like, do you really want to be going to a priority free agency with a guy where, I'll be candid with you, you're probably not going to be the team that we choose outside of outrageous signing bonus. So it's definitely one of the things from the day-to-day. It's how much getting your guys out there and exposing them to as much as you can. I have been posting videos on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook with my guys to be able to, let's get you out here. My guy, Nicholas Lennon, was putting up 335 on the bench. The video is on my Twitter, it's on my Instagram, for 5 reps. And I asked him, I was like, how much do you think you do at 225? 225 is what you do at the NFL Combine. He said, I don't know, 30 plus. By comparison, let hear this. There were only 5 players at the 2024 NFL Combine who did more than 30 reps at 225. And they were all offensive linemen. So getting your guys out to teams like, holy crap, it's like, how did we miss this guy? It's like, well, I understand why you did, but it's like, it's not too late now. So definitely exposure is the name of the game, making as many connections, finding as many scouts as you can on social media, getting as many phone numbers, shaking as many hands so that your guys know that if you're in a situation it's like, I got you out there to as many teams as you want, and once the draft begins, everything is out of my hands. You could obviously do what Drew Rosenhaus did back in, I want to say 2004, with Willis McGahee, where he is like, hey, you're going to be a first-round pick. And I guarantee it, and if you're not, I waive my fee. So what they're doing in the draft is they're on the phones, and teams are like, oh, my God, who's he on the phone with? They're on the phone with each other. And that's how Willis McGahee got drafted in the first round. And Drew Rosenhaus proved one again. He's probably the best NFL agent in the game.
You're listening to Matt Tympanick when it comes to all things agents, all things lawyer. I'm going to transition a little bit. You talked about exposure, a guy that's been exposing himself too much, Justin Tucker. 7 more massage therapists come forward, bringing the total to 16. Will he play another NFL game? Do you think the Ravens will keep him on the team? Just what's the latest on Justin Tucker?
So definitely what I was looking at with Justin Tucker is looking to see if there was any kind of decisions the Ravens had to make. So when the NFL offseason comes around, teams are looking at is like, all right, do we want to pay this guy if he's not going to be on our roster? So Justin Tucker's contract is designed that he doesn't have a roster bonus. He doesn't have some kind of workout bonus. He doesn't have anything that the Ravens have to pay in March. So they don't really have to make a decision until they have to. Remember, this is the same organization that stood by Ray Lewis back in 2000 after everything that went along with him. So it's possible the Ravens might do one of 2 things, I think. One, they could cut their losses now and be like, he hasn't statistically been good. It's just time to move on. He's a Hall of Fame player and yada, 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 which is translation for we don't want to be stuck with all of this sexual assault stuff. Like, we're not going to be the Browns in this. We're not going to look the other way. We're not going to basically say that this didn't happen or anything like that. It's like, we're just going to allow the judicial process to work itself out, but he's not going to be a part of our team. Or, which I think is more likely, I think the Ravens are going to keep Tucker on the roster and be like, well, we're going to allow the legal process to work itself out, and they might draft a kicker and then basically have a competition so that when they eventually cut him, they can be like, well, the decision to cut him was performance, and we found somebody better and younger and cheaper, as opposed to cutting him because of everything that's gone on. It gets worse by the day. You read the allegations and you're like, okay, did, 17 people all just decide to come together and just say the same story? I don't know if that's believable, but I definitely think that if the Ravens were going to cut Justin Tucker, it probably happened in the next couple of weeks if it were going to happen before, say, training camp or roster cutdowns. Because I think that if he leaves the Ravens, I don't think another team touches him.
No,
he had a down year last year. He's a Hall of Fame player, but off the field, I don't know if another team's going to want that.
No, I mean, look, he's the Deshaun Watson of kickers right now, and we all know how that played out. And, of course, I was in Houston when all that played out, and I know a little bit behind the scenes just from some folks I know in H-Town in the legal community that commented on how that whole thing went down with Deshaun Watson. Granted, this is a little bit different story because, that was, you had Instagram involved. You had a team involved when we're talking about the Texans situation. A lot more that was going on behind the scenes with the whole Deshaun Watson deal versus what we got going on right now with Justin Tucker. We're considering, not that it exonerates him in any way, shape, or form, but none of this has happened since 2016. If Justin Tucker said, hey, I'm listening to the show tonight, let me reach out to my guy Matt Tympanick and have him, consult me on this. What would be kind of your legal strategy, or how would you walk him through this?
Well, definitely, it's like, okay, let's go through each and every one of the allegations and the accusers and see if, all right, can we identify who these individuals were? Like, can you first off prove that this individual, this never happened? Like, I was in here, they're saying at the time I was in Baltimore, but really I was in Houston, or if I was in Atlanta when they're doing that, I wasn't here on this date, I can prove that. So you start by probably chipping off as many of the allegations as you can. This is strictly from a legal standpoint. We're not by any way demeaning or lessening what these alleged victims are saying. But as his attorney, that's what I would start by doing, because, like, all right, if we mitigate a few of these, then people start to think it's like maybe this is some kind of cash grab. Recently, Jabril Peppers of the New England Patriots was the victim of something similar, where the victim alleged domestic battery of him, and then he went to trial and he was acquitted like a half hour. So that's definitely how would I advise Justin Tucker, because you got to show the team that it's like, I'm worth keeping around. Like, he still has 3 years left on his contract, but with that down year that he had, which was by his own standards almost not even Pro Bowl level, barely starting level kicker, the team's gonna be like, I don't know if we want that kind of heat when you're not getting that kind of talent from him.
All right, last thing. We'll get you out of here with this, Matt, and you've been absolutely fantastic. About 45 seconds or less. I know I hate to do it, but like I said, I'd love to hear about the agent stuff, and we'll have you on again as we get closer to the draft. But the Joy Taylor, Charlie Dixon, we've had another person come out. We've got the hairdresser. We've got a gal that was in front of the camera that's come out now. I want to say he's been placed on administrative leave, if I'm not mistaken. Just real quick, kind of, is that one of those deals where, hey, let's just pay the people and let Charlie Dixon go and then move on with the rest of our day?
I don't know, because then it just essentially incentivizes, if it's not true, then it incentivizes more people to do it. Or if it's, we're just paying somebody off and then basically sweeping it under the rug. And you're not really changing how the culture is. You're not making anything, not making it better. You're just sweeping it under the rug and hoping something else comes up. So I don't think that's a good policy for Fox Sports. So if they are truly serious about rooting out this kind of workplace sexual misconduct, they need to eliminate the people and, like, here are the changes we're going to make.
Fair enough. Matt, tell the folks at home where they can find you at on all the socials, especially with our guy Jermaine, if he might be a Cowboy in the future.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter. I refuse to call it X, at Tympanick Law on Instagram, Facebook, and my website, www.tympanicklaw.com.
And real quick, for the folks at home that aren't as inclined when it comes to the spelling, go ahead and give them that spelling one time.
Sure. Tympanick, Tympanick, law.com.
Love to hear it, my
That's
friend.
LAW for everyone.
That's right. Matt, I'll tell you what, man, it's been too long. We'll chit-chat again. I loved hearing everything. I can't wait to see more about your three clients, and we'll do this again real soon.
Thank you.